Welcome to Joy of Business Radio, hosted by Joy of Business facilitators from around the world, with special shows from Simone Milasas, the founder and creator of Joy of Business. Are you bored or dissatisfied with your work or business? Joy of Business is an invitation to a completely new way of creating. Did you know your business and job can actually be fun and joyful? If what you are currently doing isn't working for you, listen into this show full of pragmatic tools from Access Consciousness, which change everything in business, from money to finance, staff, creativity, productivity, communication, and beyond. Joy of Business Radio, weekly on OMTimes Radio.
Hello and welcome to this week's Joy of Business radio show. My name is Melanie Meade and I'm your host this week. And this week you might get to know a little bit more about me. I was known as the quiet creator, the one that would, go away, pull something together and come back. I was never the one for the spotlight. I never really liked it. And one of the biggest factors that contributed to an awful lot of that throughout my life, not just now, and I can talk to you about how I made an awful lot of changes with it. It's actually anxiety. I lived with a high level of anxiety and it does not discriminate. You do not have to be an introvert or, be that quiet creator like me to have something like this come up in your life. And I was at a conference at the weekend. It was a conference called Fresh Resolutions where people were coming to hear speakers talk about mindfulness and creating your life and tools to actually have the confidence to go make the changes that you're looking for. And as I was there speaking to people, I was there with Access Consciousness and we were doing free bar sessions, which is something that I have used in the last couple of years to help me to create something different with the way that I felt, with the way that I saw things, with how anxious I used to be. That was the tool that I used to make dramatic changes in my life with anxiety. And when I was at the conference, I was talking to a lot of different people. Like, they were all curious. People wanted to know. There's people that we'd met before that wanted to try it again. There was people that were there before that I could see recommending this to their friends. They're like, you have to try this out. I cannot explain what it is. I don't know how it works. All I can tell you is you're going to feel so much better after you've tried this session. So we were booked up in the morning. Within 20 minutes, we were absolutely booked up for the day, taking queries with people asking. And what I found between a lot of the speakers and the people that were coming to our stall or section or whatever you want to call it, the word anxiety was coming up an awful lot, or just that lack of clarity, that uncertainty, that feeling of not being sure, the questioning yourself, the low self-esteem. And I spoke to people that would have had it generally in their life, and I spoke to people that was a part of their job in health and wellness, in business, looking to create something different, because the most common feedback is it has to change. There is actually something way beyond anxiety that we have to embrace, and we can't let it stop us. Now, sometimes that's very much easier said than done. And I'm perfectly aware of that. That is something I've grown up with my whole life. When I talk to people about anxiety, I would have been shy. I would have been quiet. I never found social situations comfortable. Always felt awkward, without a shadow of a doubt. Always felt like I was in the wrong place. Always felt I was never saying the right thing. Was never quite sure what to do, and it used to absolutely stress me out. One of the memories I would have as a kid would have been going into the shop with my sister, and mum and dad would have given us some money to, get something nice, go pick up some sweets and, have a treat. Like, there's nothing absolutely wrong with that. And I remember, because I'm the eldest of three, having to walk in and finding it so hard to walk into that shop to ask for what I wanted. And that was not there's people that have had major trauma in their lives. Like, I was going for sweets, and I remember finding that really hard, having to walk behind my sister to try in some shape or form ease that horrible feeling of walking into a shop to get some sweets, which sounds ridiculous. And I know a lot of the time, a lot of us don't talk about what's going on for us because it can sound ridiculous. But the truth of the matter is, that's actually what's up. That's what's up for you right now. And we go into so much wrongness about what goes on for us and that it shouldn't be like this and we should be so much better, that we either don't talk about it or we actually just don't look at it for what it is and actually look to change it. Because who in their right mind would be stressed out going into the shop with money in hand for something that you wanted? It can sound a little crazy. So over the years and many different circumstances, between like trying to get through school, feeling like a total and utter misfit, to finding actual like employment and colleagues and work kind of tricky, and then just my own like personal things that I might not have always found easy, and having this level of anxiety just living in my life the whole time, which isn't a very fun place to be. I've used tools and examples to move beyond it, because when I was young, I never would have thought, I genuinely used to think, how am I going to get a job when I'm older? I didn't go, how am I going to get a job when I'm older because I'm anxious. I just said, how am I going to get a job when I'm older? Because I actually don't know how to survive the big bad world out there. It was just full on the whole time. And then my level of anxiety, and then people kind of expecting to understand you and not understand you. And a lot of people can really function from right and wrong. I mean, there's a whole plethora of things that I can talk about. I'm trying to be concise right now. And also the idea of doing a radio show. I did my first radio show last year. I had, well, actually, no, it wasn't last year because it's 2020. I did it in 2018 now. I had got a flu and I completely lost my voice. I was so ill, and that's a whole other radio show for another day about working and your body and stuff. But my voice was barely back. It was audible, but I used to get exhausted from speaking. And I knew to just record a radio show, no matter how terrible I thought it was, because I needed to take a step in a direction and not have things hold me back anymore. And we do have to be willing to make things look so bad, because if we're going to wait for it to be perfect, we'll be waiting forever. So that's one of the first things we're going to look at today. It's actually that myth of perfection. And a lot of us that have anxiety, and I'm sure other people too, but I'm pretty sure everyone has it in some shape or form, will look at the perfectionism of what's going on. So we have different levels of anxiety. We have the people that live with it every day. It absolutely paralyzes them. And then we have the people that maybe get anxious before they fly. They have some particular fear of when they fly, or if they're going to stand up and do public speaking, or if you're going to do a presentation. There's all different things. Like, we've all had moments where our stomach was just churning and we weren't feeling well, and we actually probably even questioned, why in God's name were we doing it in the first place? And if we knew how it was going to go and it was going to be perfect and the results that we were going to get from it, we'd probably find it a lot easier to do. And it's that level of uncertainty that hits us that sometimes is what holds us back. Again, as I say, varying different levels for different people. Some people will get over it and get on with it. And a lot of other people will just stew in it and live in it for quite a long time, and then judge themselves that they never made the choice to go for it, and maybe live with regret. And it's just this vicious cycle that goes on and on. And that's where the perfectionism comes in. We're looking for it to be good, right, and perfect. To have an outcome, to know that we're not going to lose face, to know that it'll be absolutely fine, and that everyone's going to think it's amazing, or that you're going to get that job, or it's going to be the easiest thing that you'll ever do. But life's not always like that. And that's what I love about the tools of access consciousness. The tools of access consciousness and joy of business do not promise you positive outcomes. They are tools to help you with your life and make the changes that you would like to make. Make the changes that you would like to make in your life. You know what's not working for you. And probably one of the hardest things sometimes is finding a way to change that. And there is no how. And that's where the perfection thing comes back in again. We look for the route, the roadmap, the how. How are we going to get there? What plan will we take? If we stick to it rigidly, that's what's going to show up. And when I look at my life and where I'm at right now and the changes that I've made over the years, I spent 16 years working in local government law office, and then I really took a shot at myself and went out on my own. And I'm into my 4th year, so I've done 3 full years of business. And one of the biggest things is I had to trust myself because it did not show up the way that I thought it would. Now, technically at my stage of life, a lot of people that I know would be maybe married with children, have a job, or maybe staying at home raising their kids to go back to work. They probably, more than likely, a lot of people would have gone to college and ticked all these boxes. I was the worst at ticking these boxes. I had no idea how to get life right. So I put myself into a lot of judgment, an awful lot of judgment. Add to the fact that I always felt grievously misunderstood. Like I felt like I could never say the right thing. Or it would spark people off, you'd just naturally annoy people just by being yourself. And not only as a kid, even into adulthood, I often wondered, how the hell is this going to work out for me? Again, making myself consistently wrong, putting myself into this cycle of wrongness, of imperfection, of not being able to get it right. And I remember a couple of years ago, I was in a car with 3 other people, all extremely high achievers. And I felt like a piece of crap next to them. They had these stories. They travelled the world. They met these fascinating people. And there I was in my 30s, a single mother to a teenage boy, currently in the law office job that I was in before I changed my work over, knowing that something else was possible, not knowing how to get it, knowing that I hadn't ticked any of the boxes in the right order that other people seemed to have been ticking, that seemed to have been getting right. And I really had no idea what I was going to do next, because I was clearly not good at the how. And in that same day, I had the most fascinating realization where it came to light that these people weren't happy with their lives either. That these stories, these accomplishments and these achievements, though fascinating and worldly and amazing, these people were still very unhappy. There was a lot of proving going on. There was a lot of still trying to figure life out. And I honestly would have thought that they had their shit together. And I didn't. And this was a turning point for me in actually looking at the way that I created and what I would like my life to be like, and that I could create it the way that I know how. But I still had that sneaky little thing that used to creep up every now and then, which was doubt and anxiety. And man, that can hold you prisoner to any choice or change you'd like to make until it actually doesn't. And that's the part that I love talking about. It's not to dismiss it or simplify it or make it less than what it is. But there's actually something else possible beyond anxiety if you're willing to explore it.
No one needs to have a money problem, especially you.
Yeah, did you hear that? You have an unlimited and mostly unaccessed capacity to create money and a financial reality that works for you. Simone Milasas has a brand new book. It's called Getting Out of Debt Joyfully. And right now, when you go to gettingoutofdebtjoyfully.com, if you pre-order the book, you'll get a free online course. What if you can create money in ways no one else can? Just go to gettingoutofdebtjoyfully.com to get your copy today.
Host your show on IOM-FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM-FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Aloha, my name is Jennifer O'Neill, and I'd like to invite you to come join me every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Hawaii Standard Time for my show Spirit Chat. Spirit Chat focuses on simplifying the process of using the spiritual tools and gifts you were born with in a way that fits into your everyday life. I also teach different techniques that will help you learn how to navigate the spirit realm and empower you on your own spiritual journey. So join me this Wednesday as I guide you through the spirit world.
The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is. The cutting edge of conscious radio, OMTimes Radio, IOM FM.
And welcome back to the Joy of Business Radio Show. You're still with me, your host, Melanie Meade. And I'm talking about something that's quite personal to me. It's moving beyond this anxiety that can come up. And again, different levels for different people. It's those kind of feelings that we use to stop ourselves taking a leap, taking a jump, creating what we know is possible. And what I found when I was at that conference event at the weekend, people just wanted to feel better. Like, when you put the question to them, like, what were they looking for? It wasn't like to make $1 million. It wasn't to overcome this particular fear or that particular thing. The general thing is they wanted to feel better. They were stressed out. They were anxious. They weren't sure what to do next. There's a level of clarity that they were asking for. And it wasn't, they were not going to get it from our section of a list of how-tos. They needed to feel inspired, but ultimately they needed to inspire themselves. And I get at some stage in our lives, we all become aware that perfection isn't possible. It's a limitation that we use to not go forward in life. I say this regularly, and I've said it on a lot of shows with different topics. The things that we take for granted now that never existed before. People had to take a chance on something. They had an idea. They, worked out how to get it to work. They had to get it out into the world. It became a viable product, something that we take for granted every day now. Like, I had an electricity outage today. It was so funny because I actually had to remember, so the washing machine's not going to work. The kettle's not going to boil. My internet will go. And you look at all these things, a lot of these things didn't exist when my parents were young. Some did, some didn't, and some have evolved. But it takes people going out into the unknown, into that adventure, to actually create something different. Something maybe that brings them joy. And when you look around at a lot of the things, even the chair you're sitting in today, that brings us a lot of joy too. I remember somebody saying to me before, like, what's considered an achievement? And I said, it depends at what stage of my life you're talking to me at, because there was a stage, I had a car accident maybe 17 years ago, and it was achievement if I got out of bed in the morning because it was so physically painful. But I used to have to take it in baby steps. I'd have to sit up, I'd have to swing my legs out to the side, they'd have to hit the ground, then I'd have to work up to standing up and moving. And then every step after that counted. From the moment my eyes opened, every step was an achievement. Because the pain was so present, and then having a small boy to get to school, having a job to hold down, having all these other external things going on around you while this is going on with your body, really wasn't a lot of fun. So, generally speaking, as much as I might look at different things now that I'm looking to achieve, every morning when I literally open my eyes and I put my 2 feet on the floor, success. You are making a start with every step you make. You keep going and you keep going forward. And that's something I regularly have to remind myself still of. Because just because I found the tools of access consciousness and the bars does not mean it eradicated anything that wasn't working in my life. It's not always abundantly clear where your limitations lie. The way that you see yourself, how you think about yourself, the way you see other people, how you feel their roles are in your life and where you're stopping yourself and things like that. So it's actually a journey. And it's a journey I'm so happy that I have taken in my life and definitely in business, because I never would have thought that I would be doing what I do today. Somebody caught me at the weekend from the event and said, could you just jump on video there and do a testimonial? And they were asking me questions. And the lady I was with go over, she was like, oh yeah, no. And she kind of went away. And I was like, what do you want to know? And he was like, how you find it? And he said, this is what we're looking at. So he put the mic on. And I was laughing because clearly I've had experience now working with people like Simone and Brendan and Gary and Dane, and how they go do media and how they get media articles and all these different kind of things. And I've heard them on radio shows and everything. And the guy just points the camera at me. I did not find it necessarily comfortable. I might have looked extremely exhausted. I'm really not sure. He asked me a question. I answered it. And he went, that was great. And I went, cool. And that was it. Whereas before I would have been fumbling over my words and I actually didn't care anymore. And when you give up the concern of how something's going to show up, things get a little bit easier. And you know what? You might always do it better. But who's to know? But it's those kind of things where you take those little steps every day, be it you have that we'll call low-level anxiety to the high-level anxiety. Everything you choose is huge. Like when you look at people that have anxiety and you look at their performance in work or their, as a partner, as a parent, just general happiness quota, sometimes cooking food isn't fun. That level of taking care of yourself isn't fun. And it's finding the appreciation and the joy in every moment. Like when you get stressed, a common thing people do is comfort eat. You know what I mean? You get anxious. You might not cook a dinner. You might just stick on a pizza and go, I actually can't handle this right now. And it's about having this bigger picture overview and taking these tiny little steps that will help you create something different. That will actually assist you just knowing that every tiny choice that you make will create something greater. Even if there is a storm going on around you that you have no control over, that is creating some kind of stress in your life, know that you actually have the power to be, not do, be something different with it. One of the things I found interesting was I was listening to Gabby Bernstein talking probably early to late last year. She's probably launching a product or something, and she was just doing interviews and talking about wellness and stuff like that. But like she's been in her sector of business for quite a long time, and she does an awful lot on wellness and spirituality and all these different kind of things. But she got postnatal depression, and what she said was absolutely spot on for people like me in the personal development business. That when we talk about wellness, when we talk about changing your life, we have JCFs on here every week giving you tips and tools in business and in life, and everything that we speak about comes back to you and the choice that you would like to make. And what she said, she felt like a fraud all of a sudden because she got this postnatal depression. She felt she should have been able to fix it and handle it, and she couldn't. And that highlights something huge where we make ourselves wrong for something that's going on. And if we continually make ourselves wrong for something that's going on and we don't talk about it, we don't vocalize it, we don't say, hey, even though it might not be true, I feel like a big giant failure. Because I even wondered recently, I said, should this actually be happening for me? Should this level of anxiety come up in my world every now and then? Because you can go through kind of bouts of it. And for me, a lot of the time it's more physical than mental. A lot of the time it kind of comes out of the blue. I might not actually be stressing about a particular situation, but my body will start reacting and put me into this unusual panic. And sometimes for me, it's usually when I'm more relaxed than when I'm stressed out, which was really interesting. So I was grateful she said that, because even when I caught myself thinking about this, even before I did the show, I was like, you really should have your stuff together, and you don't. And then I went, and this is the key. I might be subtly giving tips here, but genuinely, as I said, when you keep yourself in that cycle of wrongness, you won't change anything at all. And maybe move into the acknowledgement and gratitude, and actually realize, I woke up this morning, I got out of bed, whoops, I made a bit of a silly choice, I'm going to make another one now. And stop making yourself wrong. Stop making yourself wrong for what's going on. And I think probably the hardest thing, especially when you're in the midst of anxiety, is what I'm going to say next. You might not like me for it. And I will just do my whole disclaimer thing going, I get it from time to time. It was way worse when I was younger. I can still get it now, trust me. It's not real. It's like this survival mechanism that we go into for one reason or another. Like, as I said, for me, it's usually not a trigger. Like, I wouldn't be stressing about exams, or like in my mind, for me, it's just more when I get really relaxed and when things seem to be going well, my body's like almost pinging me, kind of these panicky things go on. And I find I have to actually remind myself, hey, this is okay. I am okay. Everything is okay. I grew up with this weird point of view that this stuff I just couldn't handle based on the fact of the level of anxiety that I function from. This feeling of lack of safety, they call it fight or flight, where your body's always ready to run. And I've done a lot of work over the years, access bars being a huge part of it. And absolutely, in the most inexplicable way, will relax your mind and your body. And yet I still can't come up. And I have the tools to use to actually make a difference. And I was listening to something, Brendan Watt, who is a JCF and facilitates these classes all over the world, called Choice of Possibilities. And I'll talk about it after the break, because I think it really kind of taps into what anxiety actually is and what it could be more if we were willing to kind of head in that direction. But he was talking today, and there's moments when you hear what somebody says and it's like a breath of fresh air. It's a sigh of relief. What he said I always knew, but it's that reminder to get out of that monkey mind and that cycle of always making yourself wrong when stuff like this comes up. Because it's not a fun place to live. And I know something else is totally possible for all of us. So we'll talk about it after the break.
Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake.
Tune in to the Practical Intuitive, Mind, Body, Spirit for the Real World with me, host Robin Fritz, Mondays at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 Eastern. I'll cover personal and business intuition, animal communication, mediumship, space clearing, past life regression, shamanic insights, energy healing, soul choice, and more, all to help you tap your own intuitive and healing skills. No ifs, ands, or buts.
Host your show on IOM-FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM-FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Putting the fun back in business. Wake up, go to work, come home, watch TV, go to bed, repeat. Business, work, your job, hate it, bored, want to leave it? Or Business, work, your job, fun, play, joy, fun. Which would you like to choose? You may not know this, but business, your job, work can actually be fun. Shake up your business routine. Check out my 3-part free video series on putting the fun back in business. Go to accessjoybusiness.com/fun and put the fun back in business.
Connecting you with the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
And welcome back to this week's Joy of Business radio show. I'm your host, Melanie Meade, and I'm here this week sharing a bit of my story about a topic that seemed to be really up right now. To be honest, it's up all year round. I was at an event at the weekend and I noticed as everyone was returning to work and I was checking social media, the topic of anxiety was just high on the list of conversation. So I just wanted to jump on and share with you a part of what used to come up for me, how it used to be, and how it still actually can be now. A lot of the times we look for the solution and the answer and then it should be done and dusted and we move on. But with something with anxiety, there's actually something different available there. And that would be my personal point of view on it. And having worked with Access Consciousness for the last few years and using the tools for even longer and having this information, I have to look at it from a different place. Because when I was younger, it was so high and prevalent, and now it's not so much, but it doesn't mean I don't get it. And as I said just before the ad break, I know some people out there in the world that are, life coaches and teaching people, and they would have nearly been afraid to talk about it themselves too, because they felt they should have had a handle on it. But the fact of the matter is sometimes things just creep up out of nowhere and, hello, here I am. What you going to do now? So as I was saying before the break, I was listening to Brendan Watt talk about something that I want to go into a little bit more. If you would just entertain me for a while and just look at this for yourself, that everything is energy. And I'm pretty sure there was some other incredible, amazing people over the years, from scientists to God only knows who else, spiritual people, life coaches or whatever, actually have this concept, and there could be scientific proof to prove it. But I know it's true for me that everything is energy. When you look at, for example, when you're at a concert and the music's playing and the crowd is electric and you're, thrilled, you're pumped, you just think this is amazing. Like, the atmosphere was great. That's energy. It's not people coming up, tapping you on the shoulder going, this is amazing, this is great. It's the way people are being with the situation that creates the smile on their face. It can be the thrum of the music. It could be just that aliveness of everyone that you can sense too. And then on the flip side, those moments where you walk into a room and everything goes stone cold quiet and something's happened. Different scenarios. That either people were talking about you and decided to stop, that there might have been an argument and people were trying to cover up what's going on, and it just feels weird as hell. Energy. I mean, it's all unspoken. And a lot of the time, without it having to be extreme circumstances like an argument or like something as cool as a concert or whatever else would be going on, there's these nuances that run through life that way. Like, when you're having a conversation with someone and you say, how are you? And they say they're fine and they're not, you kind of go, inside. Usually it's inside your head. And then that's not how I'm seeing it right now. And then you make yourself wrong and you're like, but they said they're fine. And you think everything's okay. It's all energy. And it's the way that we interpret it is usually what screws us over. Everything is energy. When you go out for a walk in the sun and that sun is just beating on your body and it feels really good, that is a form of communication with energy. It's the same with the cold, or if you go out in the rain. Some people find it refreshing, some people find it not refreshing, they find it horrible. But all these things that are going on all around us, unspoken, more than spoken, create something in our world, and we actually get to choose how to be with it. We do not have to like what's going on. We do not have to like the fact that an argument occurred. We don't even have to like the concert where everyone is going crazy bananas happy about the music. But what we do have to look at is everything is energy. We're aware of our surroundings all the time. We've put such an emphasis on the validation of the information. Do you ever have that moment where somebody you've been thinking about messages you? Energy. And you're like, oh my God, it's so amazing. How funny is that? It's energy. Everything is energy. We put stuff out into the world constantly. We're also receiving information constantly. And it's something that we really do disregard because we're taught when we go to school how to speak, how to write, how to communicate. It has to look this way. And a lot of that is really cool, etc. And then you meet somebody like me who couldn't fit in for love nor money and had to try really, really hard to get it right, which in turn increases the anxiety because now I have to look for validation to make sure I know what's going on is correct, disavowing everything else that I'm aware of in order to get it right. And when it's not about having your reality and nobody else's, it's about you being with everything that's going on around you. Ultimately, the choice is ours. And again, in those moments when anxiety comes up and says hello, and you're wondering, what the hell am I going to do next? Or how am I going to go into work today? How am I going to face the boss? Because I know what's going to happen. I could tell stories like that where I knew when the next, we'll call it the bullying session, was going to occur. And we almost knew who the next person was. And I knew full well when it was going to be me too. And that can create a stress and an anxiety in your body because you are thwarting all that information into something. Rather than acknowledging and knowing, it's down to how you're going to be with it. And this is where the journey very much would begin for me into overcoming the anxiety, because it can be such a deep topic in the sense that what will come up for you is where you will start to see where you've stopped yourself, where you didn't acknowledge what you were great at, you know, how you could be with stuff in order to figure it out, get it right, you know, maybe how can you spare yourself from the humiliation of what was going to happen next, and your mind was going into it the whole time, rather than actually looking at what else is possible. What else is possible here I have not yet considered. And actually trusting that the universe has your back, which includes other people showing up in it too. And I've had to learn an awful lot of this over the last couple of years, because it always felt like life was happening to me. Like it was kind of coming from the outside in, and it was just like walking through thorny bushes trying to get them out of the way. It wasn't the most enjoyable experience in the world, and knowing that something far greater was possible and not actually feeling like I was going to be able to touch it was the most frustrating part. But the missing piece of the puzzle actually was that I wasn't including me in it, that I actually get to create my life. I have no control over how other people respond, but I do have control of how I get to be with it. I get to choose how to be with it. And that's kind of the same as I was talking to earlier. Like a lot of my anxiety is far less thinking driven. It just stuff pops up in my body where it just sends me into a bit of a spin, and I have to look at it. I actually have to look at it. The first thing I will go, this isn't real. I'll check that I'm still breathing. Everything's fine. Yes, it can send crazy thoughts into your head. What's going to happen now? Like some of the most common things are, am I dying? You know what I mean? Like, people have been admitted to hospital thinking that something terrible was going on when it turned out to be a panic attack. And that's okay. It really is totally okay. So as I talk about moving beyond anxiety and eradicating it from our life, it's not making what occurs wrong, or this has to stop and it shouldn't be happening. It is a what else is possible scenario. Because usually, as I was alluding to just after the ad break there, it's an awareness of something. It's just information. And when we try to compartmentalize it or make sense of it and make ourselves wrong for coming across what's going on, that's where we screw ourselves over. And we make choices and decisions to maybe never choose something again or never be something again, and make ourselves feel so wrong that our body will help us make sure that that won't occur. It will send out these signals to us to say, hey, this is similar to the time that you thought this. This is how I'm going to stop you. Now, it doesn't talk to you that way, but it will stop you in your tracks. Like, you might need to catch your breath. You might need to, your stomach, you might start feeling sick. You might get nauseous. You know, you start getting these incredible butterflies. You become frozen with fear. And we don't always have the memory to trace it back to something, but we do make those choices along the way that ultimately put us in a place where we're really not creating our lives and what else is possible. And the second thing I would say, and it's a huge tool that I use when it comes up, the first thing I do is I look at it and go, hang on a second, none of this is real. This is okay. It's not, what occurring is not wrong. But the thoughts that I'm thinking right now with the sensations that are going on in my body, when my body pops up and just goes, hey, none of it's wrong. So what next? Okay? None of it's real. This is okay. So what is it? And as I said earlier as well, it's usually an awareness of something that's going on around us. Okay? Be it something before that had occurred in our body now is sensing something similar and it's flagging it. So is this anxiety, what this is that's going on, is it yours? Does this actually belong to you? Now, I'm going to give you a hint. A second ago I said it's not real. So 99% of the time it's really, really not yours. So what do you do then? A bit of out-of-the-box concept for most people to try to wrap their heads around. So we're coming up to the final ad break, and when we come back after the ad break, I'm going to talk about this bit a little bit more and actually just explore that concept of it not being yours, because it can feel really, really real. So let's see what we can create beyond anxiety after the ad break. Talk to you then.
What do you hate about business? And do you want to change it? If you don't want to change anything about your job or business, stop listening. You're all good. If you'd like to have money just for the fun of it and stop the negative self-talk, check out Joy of Business. This is about knowing what you know about business and creating more than you can imagine. Access Joy of Business 101 classes offered around the world. Go to accessjoybusiness.com/101.
As difficult as it is to believe, there are places in Africa where human traffickers sell albino children and their body parts for use in magic rituals. Humanity Healing International is actively working in Uganda to change this paradigm. The Albino Rescue Project finds albino children who are at risk and places them in safe schools and environments where they can learn and grow free from fear. To learn more or to sponsor a child, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is. Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business.
Hello, I'm Lisa Berry. Join me every Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time for Light on Living, a chance to see new, hear different, and feel more as I shine the spotlight on all the ways to lighten the load of life's challenges. Light on Living is your link to that new way you're looking for, that new understanding that will enhance your life, and that positive connection that will support your growth. So join me and you'll gain insight and start to see things in a new way that motivates you.
Your conscious connection to a more mindful world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
And welcome back to the final part of this week's Joy of Business radio show. I hope you find it helpful. It's something I don't always verbalize out loud. I wouldn't have a conversation necessarily this long about it. I have shared experience with people that would have wondered the changes that I've got with the tools that I use to create something different. The most common thing I would always have heard people say was, I always knew there was something in you. Didn't necessarily mean I was choosing it. And there's ways and means that I have surprised myself and other people what I have been able to create when I'm willing to not let anxiety stop me, because it can subside and you don't have to live with it constantly all the time. And Joy of Business has classes that can work on stress and creating more positive environments, and also Access Consciousness would have tools and techniques that will help you change any area in your life that's not working for you. And this is what I'm talking about today, and this is what I'm sharing. I didn't really want to come in all guns blazing, giving you like 20 tools, because there's quite a simple place to start. And as I was saying at the start of the show, like, give up the perfectionism, because it's a lie. We're holding ourselves back doing that. And look at every single living, breathing moment as something amazing, because you're making a choice in that moment. As I said, getting out of bed wasn't easy for me after I had a car accident, and getting back to a level of fitness. I have other stories I could tell you of where things physically or emotionally were not extremely straightforward, and I wouldn't be jumping out happy with my life or whatever. But just acknowledge the choice that you're making now is not wrong, and it's what you're making now. And no matter how good the choice you're making is now, far greater is always available to us all. So it's not to disregard these choices, but just know there's so much more available and possible than what we think there is. And I've created a life and a business that I never could have planned. And things have shown up, and I've been with stuff, with situations, with people, with conversations that I might never thought I was capable. And it's through using tools like this. And actually just acknowledging how aware we are of everything that goes on around us energetically, which in some sense can sound a little woo-woo, but in another sense is extremely pragmatic, because we've had those situations that I spoke about before the ad break. And then the two things that I spoke about after that was, what is this? Now, when I say what is this, I'm not actually encouraging you to go for an answer. I'm encouraging you to go into question. Because anxiety and things that come up, these kind of stresses, are not logical. It's not because he said, she said, this went on. It's the way that we choose. It's the way that we see the world. It's how we get to choose to be with things. It's choices that we possibly made before that we now use as this point where it's our limit, where we kind of go, hang on a second, I have to back off from this here because it's getting too much. X, Y, and Z might occur. And your body's helping you along, going, okay, if that's what you want, here you go, hello. And we're so aware of information that we can't verbalize, we kind of screw ourselves over there. So what is it? Okay? Is it mine? As I was saying again, I feel like I'm repeating myself, but I just want to make it abundantly clear, because a lot of people that come to classes in Access Consciousness will come to the mic and they'll ask a question, and it doesn't matter how many years they've been using the tools. One of the most common questions that will be asked to them is it yours? And they'll go, oh, no. So we can't forget, because some of the stuff comes up and it feels really real. But once we realize this is energy, and I get to choose how to be with it. It's only real if I make it like this. So what is it? Is it mine? 99% of the time it's not. It's usually a thought, a feeling, an emotion, like, as I said, the argument that you walked into. Not just kind of an apparent one, but there's subtleties that are going on around us all the time. You know? And sometimes what I would say is it the earth? So one of the things, especially with anxiety or introverts in particular, but I'm sure this works for everyone. Have you ever gone out into the woods and just relaxed, or by the sea, by water, whatever works for you, and you don't need to do anything, you could go for a walk. It just feels so damn good. You know, you feel the sun on your skin or the wind blowing or whatever it is. The earth, it's a conversation for another day. I'm not even kind of going to go in there, but we are a part of it. Everything is oneness. I started watching a Netflix documentary called One Strange Rock. And rather than me go in to explain it now, even episode 1 alone will show you the way that the universe works and the cycles and the way things move and how they contribute to each other. We're a huge part of that. And again, when everything's energy and that's the way we work, the earth is included in it. So if it's not yours, it might be someone else's. Could be the earth. It's just a question, and all you'll do is just contribute to it. So you can return to sender, is what we usually do. So you just return it, and just, it's not like giving it back to someone, giving out, but you're just kind of saying, hey, this isn't mine. And when you're willing to let go of it and not make it real or yours, it frees up for it to be changed in general, across the board. This is the weird way that the universe works. Again, watch episode 1 even, if it's just episode 1 of This Strange Rock, and it's mind-blowing with the way you watch how the world, the earth works, and the parts that we get to play in it too. But they're huge parts of it. So there's the practicality of the questions, the way that you look at it, how you get to be with it. And then there's things like take care of yourself. One of the big things I do now in particular is move. I get out and I walk, I do yoga. I had an injury, so I'm trying to get back into training a bit. And there's these parts where I have to really be in question on what works. But moving feels really good, even when you feel like crap and you just want to sit in a dark corner and just have time to yourself. You'll probably be in the better for it. It doesn't have to be overcomplicated or anything like that. Just move and take care of your body. Like, have a bath, have a hot shower, eat something that nourishes you. I'm not going to recommend any particular diets. It can be whatever works for you, whatever brings you joy. Make sure you're taking care of yourself. There's a huge difference between, I feel crap today, I'm not going to cook dinner and stick on a pizza because it's the most convenient thing to do, to actually cooking a pizza that brings you joy. There's two very different ways of looking at it. And it's taking those few minutes, it's taking that little bit of time to not get bogged down in feeling like crap, or, your kids are keeping you too busy, or your job is keeping you too busy. Just don't forget your body, because your body is sending you signals all the time, including when anxiety kicks in. And just take care of it. And, there's a part where you can actually talk to it. Like, especially when that anxiety pops up, and I don't know, different things for different people, like your mouth goes dry, or, you can't get the words out, anything like that. Just go, okay, so this is going on right now. Because what we tend to do is try to fight what's going on. Okay, this is going on right now. What else is possible here? And catching it and acknowledging it and not making it wrong is huge. We're taught to fight and resist things. We're taught to make things wrong. We're taught to figure stuff out, where we have to start going in and looking at things. And the world and the universe is a magical place. If we're going to limit it to the very little bit of information that we have, we've closed down so many possibilities to what's going on out there in the world for us that is possible. A classic example, again, as I said during the radio show, is the life and the business that I have now. I never would have thought I would have been capable of creating. With the levels of anxiety that's going on, and even those few basic concepts I spoke about today have catapulted me into somewhere different, just where I look at things from a different place, that when something comes up that isn't working, I get to choose how to be with it. But if I want to be annoyed for a few minutes, I will be annoyed, but then I move on. I do not hold on to it. So it's not making anything that comes up for you wrong. The anxiety, the stress, the sleepless night, it just makes it worse the more you hang on to it. And just at least remind yourself that it's possible to look at it from a different place. And once you get that you get to choose how to be with everything, it creates a whole different world. And if you've never ever had your bars run, I would highly recommend it to go to accessconsciousness.com/bars, find a practitioner, take a class, get your bars run, try it out. It creates an ease in your world in a way that I cannot imagine. And this was the launching pad for me to go into something different, to get the tools and a different perspective on creating something that I never thought I would be capable of creating or capable of overcoming. So thank you for listening to this week's show. I really hope it was helpful. I've, again, never spoken about this for such a long period of time or tried to go into some kind of detail on it. So this is a first for me. And I hope to see you somewhere in the world soon. Take care. Happy New Year. And as I said, be awesome and what else is possible. So I'll be back on the show again soon. So until then, bye for now.